Testing. 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 Okay, good. Testing. Oops. Testing. I didn't have my microphone on. All right, let's see here. Let me make sure everything else is working. I think everything else is working. Let's see if the test. Let's see if the chat is working. Testing the chat. Anybody there? What's up? Sweet, sweet. Can hear you good. B-Dog, this didn't appear in my YouTube feed. I'm sorry. Should make sure you hit subscribe. I think you just search my username, Kingswell Project, and it's probably up there in my video. I didn't put like I normally put like a little scheduled live thing, but I didn't do that tonight because I was lazy. Anyways, if you're subbed, make sure you hit that little notification bell and say you want to receive all of the notifications from me. And I'm not. It probably didn't show up in your feed because I didn't put like I normally put like a little, coming in like an hour or going live in an hour. I didn't do that this time, so that's probably why it didn't work this time. Let me just move my monitor a little bit here. I didn't really clean up before I wanted to do this. But anyways, so fun time. I'm excited about tonight. It should be, hopefully, it doesn't take that long. It's going to be a fun, interesting thing we're going to do tonight. Let me just get my drawing glove on. Let me share my screen. Okay. check, check. Sorry about that. So can you hear me now? Let's see if you can hear me now. Check, check, check. There we go. Sorry about that. I was clicking on something over here and I turned off my little audio input, so I apologize for that. So let me go back. So the sword that I'm going to be designing tonight is Andúril, and Andúril is the sword of the king of Gondor, and it's a very old sword, and Andúril translated from Elvish is the flame of the west. It was originally wielded by Elandil and Isildur when in the War of the Ring, where they cut the ring, the one ring from the hand of Sauron, and it ended up getting broken in that same altercation. And when it was broken, it then became what they referred to as the shards of Narsil, and then it laid broken for 3,000 years, and then when Aragorn, son of Arathorn, who was a descendant of Elandil and Isildur, which was the king of Gondor, in Return of the King, in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, they reforge the sword and it becomes Andúril, and it's basically the king. It's the sword of the king of Gondor, and so that's the sword that we're going to be designing tonight. Now, full disclosure, I have loved Lord of the Rings since I was a kid, since before the movies, and so I have drawn many times different designs for Andúril. I've drawn all the weapons from. I've drawn Glamdrin. I've drawn all those weapons from the Lord of the Rings, and so this is not my first time to draw this, and it's definitely not my first time to think about what I want this design of this sword to look like. But I'm just going to show you some of the reference that I pull up on my Pinterest page, some swords that I really like. I've been following this guy in Scotland. His name is, let's see here. His website is called Castle Keep. Castle Keep Swords. Let me see if this is the guy. Yeah. So I've been following this guy for, probably 15, 16 years. I've always really liked his work. He's a guy in Scotland, and he hand makes, that's what he does. He's a swordsmith, and he's on the Isle of Skye, and he does really incredible work. And I've always liked all of his work, and I gotta be honest, I have always wanted to have him make a custom sword for me, and I feel like that if he makes any sword for me, I feel like that it would be this sword that I designed for this project. So maybe here's hoping in the future that I can have him make me one of these swords. And so a lot of the swords that you'll see on my Pinterest page are his. His name is Rob Miller, and his Castle Keep Swords. So just to give you a quick overview of the types of swords I like. Now, full disclosure, I don't like, this sword is not going to be some super elaborate fantasy sword, because I just think that's kind of like, it's not going to be anything like this, where it's just like this weird, gaudy, very elaborate fantasy style sword. Just because I don't feel like that's very practical, and this is supposed to be the sword of the king, and so this has to be like a mighty sword that is more in a place of in battle than frilly fantasy or whatever. So if you're sticking around to see like this really cool elaborate detailed sword design, you're gonna be very disappointed, because this is gonna be very simple Very, very strong and impactful design. Just for some reference, and this is really sad because this is the Andúril sword from the movie, which I love this design. I've always liked this design. It has a hollow pommel, and I've always liked this design a lot. And it also has a straight cross brace, which I also really like in swords. So it's going to be really hard for me not to make it look like this sword because I like this design so much. But some of the elements that I really like is I want it to be a two-handed sword. So like something like this, where you have this really long handle, Here's Glamdrin from the movie. That's a really small image. Like this, where it's two-handed. And then I also like the two types of cross braces that I like are these straight cross braces, and or a slightly curved one as well. One of the other swords, I don't know if I can, I don't know if I can get a picture. Let's see. When I was a kid, one of my favorite cartoons was Sword in the Stone, and I remember I used to love the shape of the Sword in the Stone sword. Here's a picture. Let me see if I can get a picture of it here. I used to love the shape of this sword. It's got this slight bend to it, and then it kind of comes up into the middle. And my Excalibur from my Arthurian project was very similar to this, just because this was something, this was just a sword that I used to love when I was a kid. This is a sword that I drew over and over and over again when I was a kid because I used to love this when I was a kid. So expect some of this, especially that kind of like slightly curved cross brace, and then it goes to kind of this point. I'll probably end up beefing up the cross brace a little bit compared to this Disney one, but I just give that as reference because that was a very influential sword design when I was a kid. So let's hop over to Photoshop and get with it. Let me see if you have any questions. Jackson keeping expectations low. So don't expect anything masterpiece at this point. This is basically just me designing it at this point. So let me get back to my. All right. Let me get a little closer to the. I gotta make sure my pen tablet. I gotta turn my pen tablet on. Sorry, I'm not leaving. I just have to unplug something right quick. Sometimes if I leave my computer on too long, my pen tablet goes kind of dead, and kind of got to turn it on again. All right, so let's get this going. So I'm just gonna get my drawing. Now, what I'm gonna do with this, because it's a sword, I've designed so many playing cards that basically anything that I draw on this poker die playing card thing. It's just, I don't know, it's just what I do. I've just drawn so many cards. It's basically just it's like second nature. I'm just gonna draw me a middle symmetry line in the middle, and I'm just gonna bring the opacity down on that. I'll bring my layers over here if you want to see them. This is the paper layer from the card for the Lord of the Rings cards, and I like to pull that up sometimes because that is obviously the final, the way it's finally going to be used. So I always want to go back and check that but in this case it's not really that important because I'm just designing it. And then what I'll probably do after this, once I've designed it, I'll go back and I'll build it in 3D, kind of like I did Sting. I'll build it in 3D because there's going to be multiple times that I draw Andúril in different ways. Like it's going to be an ace. It's going to be an ace, and then Aragorn will have it. It'll probably be the Shards of Narsil, and I'll build it in 3D so I have the basic shape, so that when I redraw it every time, it always looks like the exact same sword, and all the perspective lines are perfect and everything like that. Because I'll end up just making it 3D, and then I'll draw over the 3D rendering that I make. So I'm just going to turn on symmetry here, vertical symmetry in Photoshop, and so now anything I draw, it gets mirrored over, and so now I can draw a sword, and it will get drawn over. And so I'm just going to make a layer, and I'm going to bring the opacity down because I'm just going to kind of sketch, and I'm just going to sketch just very, very simple designs of the hilt that I like. Like in my head, like I said before, I've drawn this sword 100 times. I've drawn the hilt, I've drawn the pommel, I've drawn the handle, I've drawn the blade. I know what kind of blade shape I like, so I'll just kind of draw you a few that I like. The first pommel design that I like is kind of that cross between that Disney, like the Disney Excalibur is like this. And I just mentioned that because it's such, the Disney Excalibur is like this. It's a slight crescent. It has points on the end, and then it's got a very small handle, cross guard here, and at the very end it goes up to a point like that. It's got kind of a ridge right there. The handle's a little bit boring. It's very long, and then it comes to it narrows very quickly like this, and it's very straight, and at the end it just has a circle pommel. But the cool thing about the Disney sword is it has a huge blade, very wide. I mean, it's obviously very, very stylized, but the part that I like about this is this kind of crescent moon shape. Now, and I love swords, and so I would always draw swords from different movies. The Braveheart sword is kind of like this. It's very similar. It's got a very small cross brace, but it's a straight cross brace like a sword. It's not a Crusader sword, and then it's got a little notch in the metal, and then it creates a little kind of a bell shape at the end. And then at the very center, it kind of has this, it's got this little piece of metal that comes up like this. And then the blade here has, the blade for about 10 inches, about 8-9 inches, has a leather guard. And the leather guard is for you to like reach up and grab on the blade if you wanted to like really wield it, because the Braveheart sword is huge. And then the handle for the Braveheart sword is like very, very long. It's got like a ridge here, then it comes down again, and I can't remember. I want to say it's got a circle pommel too, and that's really cool. Very cool design, very iconic. I mean, the swords that I liked when I was growing up. And this piece of metal right here, if this is a side drawing of the scabbard, this piece of metal on these swords would historically, it would come outside of the scabbard. And so you'd have these two pieces of metal that, if this is like a 3/4 drawing of the scabbard, when the sword was in the scabbard, this piece of metal would come up outside and kind of like stop the sword from going into the scabbard. And then finally, the one of my other favorite designs is the Andúril from the Lord of the Rings movie. And I hate that it's such a cool design, and I hate that I like it so much, because it's going to be very hard for me not to. I want to make sure that my stuff is different than theirs. So the Andúril from the movie is very similar. It's got kind of a point centerpiece. It's got a straight handle, and then at the ends it kind of does this, and at the ends of the handle it kind of creates this kind of like fan shape like this, which I think is super dope. And then the blade comes out like this, and it's got little leaves right here, and it's got a channel down the middle, and then inscription in there. And then the handle for the Andúril in the movie, it's got a top piece that's leather, and it's got like little ridges in the leather, and then the back end is metal, and then it's got a really cool crescent-shaped pommel that has a hollow hole. And this is actually really hard to do when you make swords, is making hollow pommels. And these also have little holes right there. And this is the Andúril from the movie, which I love this design. I'm sad I can't use it because it's branded in my brain because just my my love of this the Lord of the Rings. So anyways, let's do it. So I'm gonna draw one that has a slightly curved handle, and we'll just start from there. And mine are gonna be very similar to all of these that I just drew because I think they're very solid designs, especially the Excalibur from the Disney movie, just because I like that, because it was so influential. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with the cross brace. I'm not gonna do the little thing like that that's like on the sword and the stone. I do want to do something on the end. I'm not quite sure yet. And then from here, you just kind of do this. I'm just gonna draw. This is the Excalibur, and who knows? My sword for Andúril may be the exact same sword that I designed for Excalibur for my Arthurian project, because I drew, like when I was a kid, I just drew the same sword over and over again, and it was very similar to the Disney one. It's like this, it came up like that. But I'm gonna try something where it's like, I don't like round bulbous things like that, because the thing about this handle and this cross brace is like that could totally be part of. I mean, it could be used as a weapon. So maybe try something like this where it's sharp. I do like that. You know, and if I like something, if I like a design, I'll just like make a copy and then just try a variation to where it's like maybe it comes like this, and maybe this whole thing comes down a little bit. Maybe it just comes out straight like that. Let's see what it's like if it does like a kind of a it's like that. And then I can try it, you know, if it's a straight. If he has a straight cross brace, that same kind of design where it's like that. See if there's any questions. Sorry, I'm not paying attention to the questions or comments over there. And if I'm really close to the camera, I'm sorry. It just means I'm right next to my screen, and it's just how I draw, and so that's where my camera's at. I like this one. I like this one. I like this one, except this kind of swooping angle needs a little something something. And the only thing I don't like about giving it too much shape is especially the cross braces, it can totally throw it off really quickly and make it look like one of those kind of gaudy fantasy swords I don't want. However, this is an elvish sword. This was originally made by elves. So, I mean, I think it has a little bit of leeway to have kind of swoopy lines, or I mean, it wasn't necessarily an elvish sword made for elves. It was an elvish sword made for the king of man. So I'm going to delete this one. Don't like that one. Let me go back. I like this one. I'm gonna try. Now I'm gonna take these designs that I like, not the background. I'm gonna take these designs. I'm gonna try different kind of centerpiece. Just delete this one. Why is it not deleting? Okay, I got you. So we'll take this. Just try some different stuff. A few different things. And remember, the blade will be like coming out here. And that's another thing I want. That's another thing I want to think about is the name Andúril means Flame of the West. And so there may be parts of this that I want to feel almost like a flame or something. I'm not quite sure though. And that's kind of what I'm thinking right here with this kind of design. Now I'm just kind of trying different stuff as it kind of comes. I don't want to put too much thought into it. I'm not feeling this one anymore. Let's take this one that has the straight ends. I like kind of what I did there. Maybe I kind of repeat that a little bit. That kind of flame feel. Let me see. Come up like this. I really like that for some reason. I really like that kind of. If it goes like this, nope. It's got one more level like this where it comes up. And the good thing, I mean, the great thing about computers is, heck, I mean, it's not like, it's not hurting me to try different things. And if I can, you know, bring designs out to a pretty well, you know, pretty flushed out, you know, level. I like this, you know, for me this is like, for me that I'm thinking of this as like this middle part, like the flame of a candle or a flame of a fire. That's just what's in my head. Let me see here. Let's take this. Let's take this one and give it a little bit more of what I said I didn't want to do, but like more of kind of like a sharp, almost like weaponized point. It's not too bad. What happens if we take that, come down, see now this is getting a little bit, it's getting a little bit too elaborate. It kind of veers away from that idea of keeping it simple. Let me see if anybody's out there. You guys still out there? Still hear me? I don't see anybody chatting. Hope everybody's still there. Let me see here. Let me let's go. Let's try something different. Let's let's make these. Let's see which one. I like that one. I like this one. What is this? I like that one. It's simple. I'm going to group those together. I'm going to make these invisible. Bring these up here. Let me just work on these just a little bit more. I'm going to take this one. And then I'm going to, let's see. I'm going to take this. Almost like there's this different level. Like that. Let me try that. Come up here. Let's do some of this. Let me run with that flame idea a little bit more. Make it even more prominent. That looks like a cabbage. We don't want it to be the cabbage of the West. So I don't like that. Or like a lotus. Kind of like that. Kind of like a shield almost. That's kind of interesting. Let's see here. I don't mind that. I like this. I like this. I like this shape. That seems like it'd be a very, very nasty pointy end to find. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take. I think out of these, I like this one, these top three. I'm gonna delete these. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take these three designs and let's see here. I'm gonna take this one off because it's a little bit too, it's too similar to the Disney Excalibur. So I'm gonna take these two that I like. Whether or not they're the ones I end up using, I don't know. But I'm gonna take these and kind of go from here, and let's make the handle. Let's see here. So bring this down. Now I'm gonna beef up this middle part just a little bit, and I'm gonna do that by taking this, well, I'm gonna bring it down a little bit. I'm gonna bring this part down just a bit. And then bring this part. Give it a little bit more girth. Like that. Alright, now I'm going to refine this shape a little bit. So I'm going to bring the opacity down and just kind of clean up some of these lines here. So I'll take this. Maybe it's got like a ridge right here. And then it comes down like this into another ridge. And then you got a matching ridge here. Like this. And you got this nice point. Like that. Same thing here. Nice little swooping edge. Comes up under here. comes down. And I'll have to check. I don't know off the top of my head. I know it has, it may have, I'm pretty sure it has some kind of elven inscription on it, but I don't know, I can't remember off the top of my head what exactly it is, so I don't want to just start spouting off. Alright, so there's that kind of design. You know, I want to kind of feel like flames, but I don't want it to be too swoopy and kind of thing. So let me take these, this one, that one, pull it up there. And I draw these lines just because, you know, it's going to end up looking like an engraving style drawing, and I just want to go ahead and start that direction. So I'm going to take this other one that I like and do the same kind of thing, where I'm just going to refine those shapes. Got a ridge there. And this would be some kind of like secondary ridge here that comes out to a point like that. And this is a nice sharp. And maybe this is like a kind of like a cool little chamfer or something that terminates up here. And then this comes down to meet at a point. Like that. All right. All right, got that one. Got this one. All right, so it's elvish. It's got a little bit of an elvish vibe to it. I'm going for like this slightly swooping lines that refer back to the fact that it's called the Flame of the West. It looks cool. It looks different than the other rings that have been, the other swords that have been created, especially in the movie, because I have to stay away from the movie. A, because I want to come up with my own designs, and also because my license is for the literary works, not the movie. So I want to let's take this design here first. Yes, Parker is doing a great job with the photos. So one thing that I do like, let me go back to, let's see, Pinterest. One thing I like about specific swords are these types of swords that have like two-part handles. Like you've got like this one. This one's a little bit crazy, where you've got the two-part handle. I just like that. This one's pretty interesting too. Two-part handle. This is another good one. The Lord of the Rings Andúril has a two-part handle. Let's see, let me find another example. I like that shape of that. This one's a little bit too ornate, but I like the shape of that. I love this sharp point. Be super, super bad day if you met the end of that thing. Alright, so this is a Ringwraith sword, the Witch King. It's like a three-handed sword. Here's the Andúril from the movie. You can see it's a two-part handle where it's got leather here and then the metal ending. There's another version of it. So yeah, so let's do this. So what we're gonna do is gonna come back up here, make a new layer, and then I'm just gonna continue. So we'll start the handle right here. And maybe it's got like this, just this design. This is just me sketching, really. And then, let's see. Let me just, I want to make sure that I don't do this. I don't butcher this kind of design. All right, I feel good about that. I just want to look at some other examples. All right, yeah. I'm also just making sure I stay away from everything else. It's got like this ring of silver or metal in the middle that separates like the leather part. Like maybe this part up here is leather, and it's got like a cool braid or something on it. It's pretty long. I mean, that's a huge sword, but this has got to be, it's got to be an epic sword, you know? It's got to be an epic sword. And you don't want him going into battle with a puny little hand and a half sword. That would just be lame. Now, the one that I always drew when I was a kid, it looked kind of like this, the pommel. The pommel always kind of looked like this, where it was like almost like this flower thing where you had the bottom of the sword, the handle, and then it came up, it flared out like this, and then it had like these petals that were like this, and then it had like a pointy part like this, and then like a ball or a jewel at the end. This was kind of like the design of the end that I did before. It's not supposed to fit on the card. I was saying this a while ago. Basically, I've drawn so many cards that I always just draw on this playing card design. This is just me. This is just me sketching, and I can always scale it if I have to. Going back to this design, I think that when I designed this samurai sword, let me find a picture of it. This is my old illustration website. But I did this samurai sword. I designed this samurai sword that had the same kind of, it's kind of similar, where you've got these petals. This is like a lotus petal, to where these petals go around, and then you've got this knob at the end. So it was very similar, a similar type design. Let me see if I can find another picture of it. See, it's got the petals. You got these petals, and then the knob at the end. So very similar in design. I think I've got, let me see if I can find, no, that's the only picture of the sword. That's the only picture of the sword that I've got. Maybe there's one more. Nope. Yeah, that was it. So you can tell, I've always had this idea of these kind of like flared petals at the end. And so, but something I'm thinking about is maybe these petals could, instead of being petals, they could be like flames of a fire, because like this is the flame of the West. The sword's the flame of the West. I don't know. We're gonna go with that, at least for now. So I'm gonna come down here. I'm pretty sure I drew it way too long, but that's okay. I can always shrink it up a little bit. So maybe these are like, maybe this is like flames or something. then you've got, I'm going to make it a little bit more aggressive so it could be kind of like a weapon or something. Then you got this point on the end. Huge sword. I could shrink this up a lot. Let me see here. Let me just take this. I don't want to shrink up that part. Just take it from right here. And shrink it up a little bit. Like that. That's pretty nice. I like that. It's at least a good start. And the thing about it is, this could all change completely. This is just me doing it. And of course, it's almost 10 o'clock. So, feel good about that. Now, and it most likely will change. I just want to show you guys kind of the process of how I go about doing this kind of stuff. And then, oops, let me just bring this all together. And then I do want to draw the blade. I've always had this idea of how the blade comes out of the sword when I was a kid, and the way I always drew this. It's an Elvis blade. It doesn't necessarily have to be a leaf blade where it kind of a parabolic leaf blade where it gets thin, wide, and then comes to a point. I don't necessarily want that. That's not the shape of the sword I want. But at the same time, that kind of leaf blade, because I mean, for some reason, those kind of leaf blades are what I associate with elvish swords. And even though this is a sword of a human, it was made by the elves and given to the king. So maybe the leaf blade is something I want to do. But I feel like a sword of a king would be very, very, I don't know. We'll just do both, and we'll see what we like. We'll do a straight one, like a long sword, where it's a straight blade that gradually comes to a point, not like a broadsword that goes straight and then at the end goes to a point. So this is the leaf blade design that I've always had when I draw this when I was a kid. So basically it starts in here, it flares out just a bit like this and widens, and then it starts into that leaf shape. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to duplicate this large, I'm going to shrink it like this. And, you know, in my head, this sword's like, 54 inches long. It's a huge sword. So let's turn our symmetry back on. I'll do both blades. I'll show you the blade that I've always drawn when I was a kid, and then I'll kind of show you another blade that's very straight, kind of a long sword blade. So basically, it would be where the beginning is very, very thin, and it flares out like this. Let me just I'm gonna mimic the lines here of the flames. Let me see here. Like that. And then from here, the blade shrinks kind of like a parabolic blade or a leaf blade. It comes in, it becomes narrower, and then it swells. Not that. And then it comes to a very sharp point like that. So that's a little bit, like, that's not long enough. Oh man, I drew that in the wrong layer. Let me do that again right quick so I have it on a different layer. Because I want this to be on a different layer so I can kind of manipulate it. So it shrinks, and then it bows out, and then comes to a point. Like that. Feels pretty good. Make it a little bit longer. Kind of like that. So that's kind of that leaf blade, and then you would have some type of channel in the middle that mimics that shape. Now, I don't know. Let me open up. I'll open up the Frodo. And Frodo's sword is very similar because it's an elvish sword, and it's that leaf blade shape to where it bows in, comes out, and then to a point. But I don't think that that's not going to be this way for this sword. Because this is like the sword of the king. I'll have a chance to do a very, very stylized leaf blade with Gandalf's sword because it's very much Glamdrin is an elvish sword as well. So let me go here. And Glamdrin and let me see, Glamdrin, Sting, and was it Glamdrin? I'm trying to remember. Glamdrin and Sting were both found, and I think in the Hobbit where they found them in a big cache of weapons. I can't remember. I probably should know these things. All right, so I'm gonna make that leaf blade invisible. Now I'm gonna do. I like that little flare at the bottom. I always liked that. I liked that when I was a kid, so I'm gonna do that again. But with this one, this will be more of just a straight up long sword straight blade, and it's gonna be hard for me to draw it straight because I'm very far zoomed out. That's a horrible straight sword. That's ridiculous, Jackson. What are you, an amateur at this? So let me do this. I'm gonna go back here. One thing I always liked about the sword are these one swords that you had the handle at the bottom, and then the blade was very much wider than the handle. So I'm gonna start out wider, and just for good measure, I'm going to just draw a straight line, and then I can shape it up. So now I can just take this and just kind of use that as a guide. And it's going to be straight from here. And then I can do my little thing where it's like this, bonk. And then you would have some type of channel here. I always like the single channel ones. Like that. And then, you know, who knows? Maybe I take maybe it's got like some cool Damascus pattern that mimics this flame. Like it's almost like this big, you know, like it almost kind of looks like a jet flame or something. But maybe the Damascus pattern like reinforces this like really cool flame aspect of the sword. Who knows? I don't know what that looked like, but definitely could be. It'd probably be something you never do see, but it's almost like you want to draw it to where, you know, the sword's on fire, but it's not on fire really. But it mimics. Maybe the elvish makers wanted to mimic that feel. So, you know, this is kind of what I do from here. I got my paper background texture. It's not a really good representation because when I draw this, it's going to look very different. And I think, let me see here. Let me pull something up. I've got my little spreadsheet here. Let me see here. Lord of the Rings court card list. So one of the cool things is make this a little bit bigger. So obviously, got it. The aces of hearts will all be swords. So you've got the ace of hearts. In the Fellowship of the Ring will be Sting. The Ace of Hearts in the Two Towers will be Glamdring, which is Gandalf's sword, and then the Return of the King, because that's the one where Aragorn reclaims the throne. The Ace of Hearts in the Return of the King is Andúril, and so I'm not sure exactly what the aces is going to look like at this point, but it's probably going to be something similar to where you know, like the sword is in the middle of the card, and then you've got like some sort of, you know, really cool drawing or something like that, and then it'll have, you know, like a banner or something on it, you know, and then these cool scrolls and everything, or whatever. I don't know what it's going to be. That looks like a Valentine's card, but whatever. And then and then it's got like Andúril, and then like the flame of the West, you know, the flame of the West, blah 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 blah, that kind of thing. So each of the aces will be swords, and then let's see. The diamonds, the ace of diamonds will be staves. So you've got the staff of Gandalf the Grey, staff of Sauron the White, and then the staff of Gandalf the White. And then the cool thing, the ace of clubs are going to be like treasures or jewels. So you got the ace of clubs in the Fellowship of the Ring is the Elfstone, which is the necklace that is given to Aragorn. It's not the necklace that's in the movie. That's something different. But they give him the Elfstone necklace. It's like this green. It's like a green stone with like these wings that come out from it. And then the phial of Galadriel is the little phial of liquid or something. The light of Galadriel that they give Frodo, and that's ends up being what they kind of, you know, fend Shelob away with. Elend, I can't remember what the Elendmer. I had to do all this research of all these different things. I think the Elendmer is the what was that? I can't remember off the top of my head. I don't remember. I'll have to go back and look. What is it? Let me see. I knew it. I know what it was. Ellen. And of course, they're always so hard to pronounce. The star. Two noble stars shaped white gems, both of these gems of mithril fillets. Oh, this is the I think this is the ring that Aragorn has on his finger. Is it? I can't remember. I think so. I want to say it's that. It's got like two dragon heads. I can't remember. Whatever. But you get the idea. I wanted to show. I went off that diatribe talking about the aces and how they're going to look and how I'm going to use the swords. And then obviously, you know, Aragorn will have this sword in some sort. It'll be an angle and perspective based on his pose. But when you see this sword again, you know, and the cool thing is I can go in here now that I've got this design, I can easily, you know, concept what the shards of Narsil will look like by just coming in here and, you know, taking part of this. You know, obviously it's not final. Oops, wrong layer. Whatever, you get the idea. So anyways, that's kind of the process that I would go. I like this. Whether I don't think it's 100% there. I'm definitely going to try a design that's very, very simple. I mean, very, very bare bones, just because I want to make sure that design's not in there. But however, if the only risk that I run of doing a very simple design sword is that it's a very simple design sword, and it has the ability to look like other swords very easily. I don't want to do something very elaborate, then it looks just like way, way, way too high fantasy, and I don't necessarily want that. But if I do something like this, what I've got here, it's got enough unique elements that it shows that it's my design and it's something new and fresh, but it's not so over the top that you're like, gee whiz, let's not go to Comic-Con this year dressed up like, whatever. Like some World of Warcraft character that's got this huge sword that's like completely impractical or whatever. But I like this. I like the idea. I'm probably going to work on the handle a little bit more, shape it out. I don't know if I like the pommel or not. I do like the idea, and I just thought about tonight, was the idea of just the flame going from the cross brace up into the Damascus blade with like the pattern of the Damascus steel. I really like that. Is there any way for me to show the detail of a Damascus in the card? Absolutely not. But I think it's worth thinking about, because I'm gonna have lots of other stuff in this project, like art books and things like that I'll be able to kind of feature that kind of detail stuff. So it's not that I don't need to do it, because I definitely need to do it. But anyways, it's about an hour, a little bit over an hour. That's kind of this process. It's pretty simple. Let me go back to the chat here. Let me see. I haven't had any bourbon tonight. That's probably why I'm probably not. I get more focused. Let's see here. I have a lot of drawing to do. I do have a lot of drawing to do. I have like, if I look at these court cards, I've got 3 completely unique decks of cards, unique court cards, and these are like all my other cards that I don't know if they'll make it or not. But I have lots of court cards. I got 3 unique decks to make, so a lot of drawing to do. Let me see if there's any other questions. Let me see. I don't think so. That would. Henry Cortez, too much blood in the alcohol system happens to the best of us. I have nothing. I have no alcohol in my system tonight. It's probably what my problem was. I haven't had anything. I've been on a new kind of diet. I mean, a lot more plant-based foods, just trying to get healthier. And I haven't had anything to drink tonight, so that may be why I'm not as well focused. Anyways, that's it, guys. I like this. I love drawing weapons. I love drawing swords. I'm super nerd. I've been a nerd my whole life. I'm excited about this project. We'll do more of this. I got more swords to draw. Got more wizard staffs. All kinds of things. So that's it for tonight. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Let's see. Any idea how much money I need to save up for this series? That's a good question. Well, you can be assured there's going to be 3 decks. You can be assured 100% there's going to be 3 decks. A Fellowship of the Ring, a 2 Towers, and a Return of the King. So there will be a lot of stuff. There will be a lot of stuff in this project, because I don't want to sell this one short. I want to do maps, because I've always loved maps. I want to do maps. I want to do prints. I want to do a lot of stuff. So I've always kind of shied away from all that kind of stuff in other projects, but I'm not going to in this one. So because I feel like I only have one shot to do it right. Now that I've got this chance to do it, actually, I don't want to blow that and sell myself short. So save up your money, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. All right. Have a great night, guys. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Hopefully I'll have some more another topic to cover next Sunday when I do another live. So Thanks a lot, everybody, and have a great night. See you guys.